died 5 times in the ambulance and 3 times in the ER. So it was a total of 8. When you leave this, you become air and you become all of the air. When I try to describe it, they're like, oh, did you see God? We are God. We're all God. I mean, I was God. I made up God. To me, the whole thing was light and energy. So the life review was weird because it wasn't like I was seeing a screen. It was more like I was an extra. You are the purest of pures, and now you're looking at the reaction of what you did. Doing a life review if you've been an asshole, because that's going to be a problem. But they wanted me to see what that did to him.
These videos answer a lot of questions about why we're here, but I'm guessing you still have a few of your own. So join me for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'll answer your questions live. And I might even have a few surprise guests show up. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Michael Florman, who had several NDEs during his heart attack. And today we're going to hear all about it. So, Michael, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic because I get to talk to you. I always say these conversations feed my soul. And I feel so lucky to be able to bring these conversations to my audience. And this is only like the second time you've ever shared your story. And I know it's very sacred. So you're lucky. Everybody in my community is so kind. And I know that you're going to be so well received by them.
That's what I was hoping.
So here's what I would love for you to do. I would love for you to just share your story in any way that makes sense for you.
Okay. I got up for work. I was headed to work. And while I was getting ready, I could tell that my jaw and my ear was ringing and my jaw was kind of tight, which wasn't really that big of a deal, but it just kept getting like a little bit worse. So I got in the car and started driving for work, and I could feel myself kind of getting a little lightheaded. And I thought I should probably do something, pull over, whatever, because I felt like I was going to crash the car or take somebody out. So while I was driving to work, I pulled into a parking lot of Target and I called 911, which is so weird for me because I would never call 911. That's not the norm. So something told me to call 911. So when I called 911, it turns out the ambulance was right behind me. Actually, they were like quarter of a mile. When I turned the corner and when I called 911, I saw the lights come on behind me because I was just pulling in. So I pulled in, they pulled in beside me. I got out and went into the ambulance, and they started hooking me up to things like, the buttons, whatever, the stickers. And as he's hooking me up, I put my phone down and I heard him say, the back flow looks blocked. And as soon as I heard that, it was like a blink and I was out. I mean, it's weird. I sort of felt a little bit of a lift and then I felt completely out. And it was a strange kind of like pop out. It was almost like I just popped out facing me, standing kind of right in front of where I was, because they had me in a chair. I wasn't in a bed. I was like sitting up at the back of the ambulance, and they had me in a chair. And so all of a sudden I was just popped up staring at myself. And for some reason, and I don't know why I did this, because I remember it was 4 years prior, my dad had died. And after he died, he was in hospice care at home. And they had said, if you want to sit in with him for a little bit while they're waiting for people to show up to get him. So I sat in there and I kept thinking, his eyes were open, and I kept looking at his eyes, and I was just amazed at how I could tell that he had left and his eyes showed it. And so when I was looking at myself in the death pose, what happened is I kind of like kneeled forward and my eyes were open. So I was fixed. So I kind of just got right up next to myself and kind of looked really close, and there was nothing. I mean, there was no sparkle, there was nothing, but I could see very clear that it was me and there was no life in the eyes, which I had no idea how much doing that was going to affect me. I mean, seeing yourself dead like that, it does kind of stick with you. So that was probably not the smartest thing to do, but I did see it. And then the next thing I knew is that that scene had changed, and I was in like a valley. It was like there was like a stream going down the middle and like rocks on both sides, and then some aspen groves and trees to the outside, and then mountains at the front. And we were just going down, and you could tell that we were going really fast, but there was no wind hitting your hair. There was no feeling of like jostling movement. We were just flying down this thing. And I say we because I felt there was somebody with me. I knew there was somebody with me. But then I've always had somebody with me. I mean, my entire life, I've always felt somebody like right to the left of me. So in death, it was no different. I think he was just a little further away. And we were going down the stream, and I can remember pausing, and there was this one tree, and like a plant. I don't know if it was a plant or a weed or something, but it was kind of green. Well, when you're on the other side, everything is so the colors are so cool. So everything looked alive. I mean, the grass had a pulse. Everything looked like it was lit within. And I remember looking at this little weed plant, whatever was by this tree, and I asked the person next to me. I said, it was a weird thing for me to ask, but I said, "How will I know if I'm real?" And they said, "If you can move it." And so I put my hand out, and it went right through it. And I don't know why that stuck with me, but for some reason I asked that question, like as if next time when I come back, how will I know? Like I'm going to do this every week. And from there, we kind of traveled toward the mountains, and then there was like a chute. It was like you just pivot and went straight up. And I can remember, and I think this might be where people see a tunnel, but I didn't really. It was not a circular tunnel, but I remember just it was like the start. You were going straight into space, and that was the part that threw me because I always thought heaven was white. I never really paid attention to any of this stuff, but I always thought heaven was white. And when I got into space, I just thought that seemed odd, that I'm actually, and it was so strange because I could see that I was traveling out. You could see the world was disappearing behind me, and I was going into space. And then I ended up in a dark area, which I thought it was a void, but I've heard other people call it a void. So that's what I'm sticking with was a void. And it seemed like in the void was where you kind of to me, this is what I think the void is that it's a place where you can kind of unpack. It was kind of a drop zone for the next step because within the void is where I really started to feel the compounding feelings that you feel. I mean, it was just the level of love, acceptance. It was just amazingly over the top. I mean, and that's where it really started hitting me. But I tried to have OCD and I couldn't do it. I was like, I really thought about it, and it seemed impossible. And I noticed because you mentioned the weight that when you leave the body, I mean, just you're so light. I mean, you don't know how much is weighing on you, not just physically, but mentally. I mean, there's so much that your brain pivots through for every thought, for everything that you get in. It's like filter systems. And with that taken off, everything was just so incredibly light, you know. And from there, I can remember it seemed like I was there for a while, but you couldn't really tell because there's no time there. But it seemed like I was there for a while, and then you could see light specks like coming from around. They were like kind of far away, but you could see it coming closer. And then it was like a cloud came down. I can't really remember how this goes, but I remember it was like a cloud came down, but a screen came up against the cloud. It was like they were going to show, and this is the life review, which I found out. I didn't even know we had this stuff because I had never paid attention to after death. I was into ghosts, but I was never into crossing over, if that makes sense. It doesn't, but same concept, different angle. So the life review was weird because what happened was it wasn't like I was seeing a screen, which is weird that it started off like showing a screen against a white like cloud thing, but then it was like I went into it. So I was more it was more like I was an extra. It was like it would be me, the person, or however the scene was, and I was standing right next to it, watching it in real time. And then being able to hop into both sides freely so I could get into their side to get their reaction. I could get into my side. And it was just kind of a weird circular type of review process. It was just different. The only one that I really remember was when I was probably about, I'd say 10, 9, something like that. And I was in grade school, and I went into the bathroom, and some kids had gone in there and taken a kid and taken all his clothes, like bullies, and left him in the bathroom, and he was crying and screaming. And all I did was open the door, and this was happening. He was alone, but he was, you know, this had happened. So I had to go get a teacher, the whole bit. I saw that again. And I don't know why I saw it, because I wasn't a part of it. And so I followed the kid. I followed him almost pretty much into his 30s. And that had such an effect on everything that he did. And plus I got to see how he went home and had to explain it to his parents, and the embarrassment. And I mean, it really made me, I was always against bullying, but that killed it. I mean, I'm like, I can't stand people to bully. And that could be why I got that so early. And I wouldn't be a bully anyway, but I mean, for some reason, the thing that stuck out the most was a part that I wasn't even really involved in. I did have other ones, but they're not as clear. I can remember the scene, but I can't remember the lesson. And I think it's because when I came back, because actually when I died, what had happened is I died 5 times in the ambulance and 3 times in the ER. So it was a total of 8. And what happened, and it took me a while to figure out what had happened, because it was scattered. So I had, like, I left, came back, left, came back. So I couldn't piece it together. But I believe what happened the next time on this first out of body part was, um this is when there was a wall, like, came up, and it came up from, like, the floor up and all the way across to the right. It went to the right side. And they were all books. They were like white with gold writing. They were kind of thick, about that thick. And I mean, they were just scattered down the side, but there was one on the table right in front of me. And I couldn't read the writing on it, but it looked just like all the other ones. And you open the book, and it was so weird, because as soon as I opened the book, I hear clear, and boom. I mean, it was like right back in my body. It was the biggest, just didn't see it coming moment that I have ever had. I mean, I was just getting comfortable there. I was kind of like, you know, they had just opened it up, and I thought, this is another aspect. And then I heard clear, and I was slammed with, it was just so violent that it almost sounded like metal was rattling. Like if you grab somebody and pushed them up against like a warehouse door, that big, huge rattle, that's what it sounded like. It would just sound like they'd slam me up against metal, which I thought was weird. But I remember I never woke up, but I was back in my body, and I remember thinking, this must be serious. This is more serious than I thought. Even after going through all the other steps, I still thought this was serious. So I don't think I totally got yet what had happened. And then the next thing I know, I get taken out again. So now I'm out of my body again. I'm still in the ambulance, because the ambulance is still there. Nothing has changed, although they did lay me down. So I was laid out, and I came out at a different angle. Like the ambulance was here, and I was above it, like 20 feet over my shoulder. So I wasn't looking at me, I was looking at them. And there another ambulance had pulled up, and a fire truck. So there were 2 ambulances, a fire truck, and my car. And there were probably about 5 people inside the ambulance. And I heard one of the ambulance drivers say, "This is turning into a clown car." Because there were so many people in and out. And then what was weird, because, and I've noticed other people, NDEers, have mentioned this too, which I thought was strange. When you say you're above something, I mean, in an ambulance, you're thinking, I'm above. What do I have to be, 3 feet? I was like 20 feet above, and the roof of the ambulance was like it wasn't there. That was the weirdest thing. You could just see right through it. So I could see the back of my head, my shoulders. They had my shirt off. They had more of the things on me. They were, you could see they were doing different things. It was a real, struggle situation. But I kind of looked at it, and I didn't care. I mean, and I knew it was me. And at that point, I knew what had happened. I think the second time I popped out, it was, and I didn't think deja vu, like, oh my God, I'm doing this again. For some reason, this seemed brand new again. But this time I knew why. It's like, and I kind of looked at myself. I couldn't see my face because I was behind me. But the only thing I thought was, I wonder if he'll make it. I wonder if they'll fix it, is what I thought. I said, I wonder if they'll fix it. And that was that was as much as I gave a shit. It was just like, I wonder if they'll fix it. you know, and then boom, I was leaving. But what's weird this time, like last time I went, and I could see, I was looking forward, so I could see, into space kind of thing. And you could see, the curve of the earth going backwards. The second time I went, I looked backwards and I could see like silver, it looked like silver sparks were coming from behind me, like I was leaving a trail going up. And I remember looking back and you could see the state, then the country, then the world, and everything just got further away. And then I was right back into the void. And that time, it wasn't really as much. This is where I have a hard time piecing it together because I do remember scattered parts, but I'm not convinced enough to say this happened. Because the only way I'll do this is like, and it's taken me so long to decide and figure out what happened, is because I think it's because I left, came back, left, came back, left, came back. And then my mind had to somehow piece all that together. So this time when I went into the void, I just started to leave the void. You could see that I was going somewhere else. I could see colors and everything was getting brighter, clear, boom, I'm back again. So I'm thinking, I don't remember having a conscious thought there, but I remember it feeling cold. Even though I hadn't woke up, it felt really cold. And then I have a couple, but I don't like to really get into them, but one other time on the ambulance, I remember somehow seeing forward out of my body for a flash. It was just a flash of activity over me, which I haven't figured that out, but that's all I had there. Then when we got to the hospital, I did leave again. And that's when I noticed the doctor had a bald head. The operating room had a rounded wall. It was like 390 degrees, and then one rounded. And I could remember different things, how the room was set up. And I do remember leaving, and I do remember being in the hallway of the hospital. But these are things that I'm still working on because I'm still trying to put together the splinters of that day. But I do remember seeing other ghosts. I still remember seeing, well, it was people in my predicament, if you want to be a ghost or whatever. But I could see that they were different than everybody else. And I went into the waiting room where my family was, and I just kind of got to looking on them, although I didn't spend much time on there. And then the next thing I knew, I just remember doing that. And then the next thing I knew, I remember waking up. I didn't get it clear that time. I didn't get slammed back in. It just kind of was a smooth back into my body. But I remember waking up and it had that hose down your throat. Have you ever had that? Awful, awful. Worst thing in the world. I'm panicky and I'm claustrophobic, and that lays into the claustrophobia, I think. So as soon as I woke up, I had this hose. It was like hell. It was like I went from heaven to hell. And I mean, I felt the hose, I reached for it, and it was just like an instant reaction. And the nurse grabbed me. I almost got it. They tied my hands down, and then at one time I broke away because I was just panic. I'm just pulling. I'm freaking out, and my some of my family were, in there, and they're, oh, calm down, calm down. I'm like, yeah, you calm down. I'm drowning. I feel like I'm drowning in like an inch of water. And you're telling me to calm down, you calm down, so I'm just freaking out. But the weird thing about the waking up is that ICU room, well, yeah, it was ICU room. When I woke up, it looked like a cave. It looked like a cave, and the lighting in it looked like if you had like a fire or torches, that kind of glistening, that kind of a, flashy lighting across the walls. That's what it looked like. And I yet to figure out why the ICU looked like a cave. And the people that were standing there, but they looked like they were standing in a cave. It was just the weirdest thing. I mean, that part always throws me because I get it that I'm back. I get it that I'm back in my body. I am now awake as me, but I have no idea why that scene looked like a cave. And then, from there, it was just I was back, you know.
Wow. Well,
But the one
thank you for sharing this experience, and I have a whole bunch of questions for you if you don't mind.
well, ask
Oh,
away.
okay. I absolutely love it when somebody has an NDE where they can gather information that they could not have possibly known and have a potential ability to verify it, which
Hmm.
was what we call as evidential. You mentioned so many things about your NDE. You mentioned that you're out they're working on you, but somehow you're above and you see a fire truck, another ambulance. You hear the driver say this is like a clown car. Then later on, you see your doctor and you notice that his head is bald and you see the curved room in the OR. All things that you would not have known if you were out and
No,
gone.
and all verified. I did ask.
So, how does you did ask? So, tell
Mhm.
me the process of how that happened because you must have been a little bit reluctant. Like, I left my body and I know these things. Was there a little bit of hesitation in asking, or were you like, I have got to know?
Well, no, it was weird when I came. I get. I mean, every time I tell this story, everybody always says, "Oh, if that happened to me, I would tell everybody." I'd be like, you know." I didn't want to do any of that. I was so stunned when I came back. Honestly, when I came back and ICU was kind of in and out. I don't know. I wasn't conscious, unconscious. When they moved me into my regular room, which I don't think it might have been the same day, but they moved me into my regular room. That's when you got to kind of unpack it. And word had gotten out, I guess just medically, I was considered a miracle because I had flatlined 8 times and they had to bring it back. And I guess it was a total of 20 minutes complete without oxygen to the brain. So there again, I'm struggling with kind of scattered and not totally in order recollections in a head that's just been damaged by 20 minutes of no oxygen, and it was impossible to piece it together. I couldn't even make sense of it, so I didn't really say anything. The only thing I said was, because somebody had mentioned when I woke up, they came in and were asking me, they brought like a big piece of paper and they said, make a D, write cat, and things like that. They were trying to see if I was going to have any lasting, problems. Because they had told my family that I could not be able to walk, not be able to talk, expect it to be bad because 20 minutes is a long time. And I mean, it's kind of that we've been kind of rough on him, trying to get him to come back. I mean, I had burn marks, I had cracked ribs, but I mean, it's all part of the deal. But Elsie, I missed where was I headed with
No,
that?
that's okay. We were talking about the evidential, and then when did you ask somebody to find out if some of these things that you
Yeah,
had witnessed when out of your body were true or not?
right. Because I know that word had gotten out about the medical part of it, that there was 8 times. So I was kind of considered the miracle. They kept calling me the miracle, and it was kind of cute the first couple of times, but then when the nurses kept coming, oh, they pop in the door. It's like, you're the miracle. I'm like, oh no, because I know you're gonna ask me. And they'd always ask me. And they were really curious. It was weird. I've heard other NDers say, that people would, dismiss it or if they mentioned it. They were all wanted to know, but I didn't want to tell. I mean, all I said was, they'd say, did you cross? What happened? And I said, well, it's the most amazing place you'd ever be. And I went to space. That was it. That was all I could think to say. I said, if you could feel that feeling on Earth, it would be amazing. And I was in space, but I didn't elaborate because I just couldn't. And
Did
I could tell that some of them were bummed about that, but for one thing, I couldn't make all sense of it in my head. And for another thing, it was just too big. That was too big for me to face, especially confused, a little mentally weirded, and then to face something so severe, I just couldn't talk about it. And I didn't talk about it for quite a while. I mean,
well,
that's all I said about it was I went to space and it was the best feeling you could ever have.
did you ask any questions like about the shape of the OR or the doctor
Yeah,
having
I did
bald?
ask him about that. I did say that I do remember because I did, yeah, that's true because I did kind of give myself away because I did have to ask that. So I said, I do remember being out of there. And then I did ask him about something about the ambulance. Um, but other than that, it was just too much. And I almost felt weird for having had it happen to me. I
Yeah.
have felt that kind of I don't know if it's survivor guilt, whatever it is, but I had just a weird feeling of, all this I felt like it was just thrown on me. In other words, I wasn't saved. I was put in this situation and I didn't know what to do with it. So it was just too big. So I just tried to block it down, which I think I've heard other people do it, but you can only block it for so long until I think it just starts really working on you because, I couldn't talk about it and I really didn't talk about it for up to 10 years. The most everybody ever said was it was the best thing I ever had and I went to space. That was it. So, I mean, but that was kind of my introduction to how I could talk about it. I really couldn't. I kind of knew what happened, scattered memories or kind of checkered memories that would get clearer through time, but
Well, isn't that interesting that your memories got clearer through time? Because think about what a dream does. Your dream memories fade pretty
mhm,
quickly the further you get
mhm.
away from it. I love the NDEs because you guys always say the same thing
Oh,
about
there's no
how you
fade.
can connect into those memories and relive them again because they seem so real, even here we are many years later.
Well, and this is how I've patched it together, because I've tried, like I couldn't get what I couldn't figure out for the longest time was the order was weird. It's like, how could I be there? But then I remember after that, this happened and that it didn't make sense until I realized, okay, I died 8 times. So I had three out of bodies that I remember. I'm sure I had more, but it's gone. But three that I remember. So once I realized that I tried to lump it all in the same out of body, and I'm like, that's not what it is. So these are three different occasions. So I had to look at it that way, and then a lot of the things that I had thought they were like splintered thoughts started to fall into place once I decided I'm thinking of it differently. I'm thinking of it wrong. I'm thinking of it as one experience, and it was several. So that's why I left and I came back, then I left and I came back, then I left again. It took me a while to figure that out because I kept thinking that it was all one event. In my mind, I thought that's what it was. And so in trying to piece it together, I could find different things that didn't fit, but now it did because of that. And I
Mm.
have a thing to where, because I'll meditate and I've been hypnotized. I had a girl hypnotize me trying to get more information because I thought, they've tried to hypnotize me before, but I can never blank out. I can never get zero on my head to get that empty. And so it didn't work, but I did find ways to kind of like I listened to that because I recorded it and I've listened to it probably about 6 times. And I have through that come up with some other things that happened, like the waking up, the flashes in the ambulance. I didn't remember that right off the bat, but those are things that are coming back. And I never consider it a thing until I've thought about it for 3 days. If I can think, oh, that happened, and then I'll just put it off to the side. And if I come back to it in 3 days and it still seems true, then I believe it. But if I come back to it and I'm still questioning it, it gets kicked into the no go pile. So that's why everything that like I in my book, everything that I wrote in the book is completely what happened in my eyes. There was no lies because I didn't want to. If I didn't know how I got from A to B, I didn't explain it. I mean, I thought it would be easy to just go, and then I did this, and then I did this, but it's too kind of broken apart, and it would be organizing it to put it together. And I think you lose some of the realism or the truth of it if I tried to put it in a really convenient package. I mean, it
Yeah.
is kind of a scattered mess, and it's
Well,
taken me 10 years to get it to this point.
Well, I have a theory about maybe another reason aside from the fact that you had eight of them and they were different
Mhm.
vantage points, because several people have mentioned that it's very difficult to tell these near death experiences because time doesn't exist the same way in a linear
Mhm.
fashion like it does on Earth, and everything is happening at once. So, somebody was just explaining their NDE where they were saying they had to piece it together and try to explain it in a linear timeline that really wasn't the
Mhm.
way it happened. And I wondered if
Mhm.
that was how you felt too.
It could be. It could be because the time thing is weird. And the other thing that's weird is when I was over there, telepathy was like nothing. I mean, because that's how I got the communication between me and the person. I only really saw that person. And this is why I'm still trying to do hypnotizing or whatever it is to see if there's any fragments because 20 minutes I was gone. And the only thing that I can really remember is maybe 2 minutes of it. So I know there's 18 minutes hanging out there. And when I know that it comes from the death and not a dream, is that if I think about it, it gets clearer with thought. And like you say, a dream fades with time. These get clearer with time. I mean, the feeling that I had when you cross over, it's just like it happened yesterday. I mean, I can remember that just that intense. It was the most, and I know everybody uses the word love, and it just gets kicked around a lot because you love your car, you love your dog, you love your tree, you love your house. But the love that is there is just, it's different. It's different. It's, I don't even know how to describe acceptance, but it was there. I mean, you just knew you were meant for there. You knew this was where you go. You knew, I felt like, and I didn't see any of the entities, but I felt like there were others around me. But I did feel like we went back lifetimes. I mean, like long lifetimes. And the one thing that bothered me, the only thing that kind of bothered me that it still does, and I've watched other NDEs to figure out why that is, it seemed like it wouldn't take me long to forget my name and forget pretty much everything. I mean, I
You mean
was,
everything from the human experience that you just came
yeah,
from?
I have that weird, and it's bothered me because, you want to think, oh, I remember all this stuff, but I was gone for however long. And I remember coming back, and I truly thought it seemed weird going back as Michael on the way in. I mean, when I woke up, it just, everything seemed weird about it. And I think that it was that amount of oddity that made me shut up. And I didn't say anything
Well,
because usually I'm a talker.
why do you think it felt weird to come back as Michael? Is it because, like you mentioned, you felt these other entities that you knew that you had had maybe different experiences with, that maybe the Michael that's here on the earth isn't the real core?
I kind of forgot about him. I mean, to be honest, and that's kind of way I thought about it is when I came, I remember I think it was the second time as I was, leaving, or when I got to the void, I can remember the thought going through my head I remember thinking I need to purposely remember that name, my name. And I don't know why I thought I'd forget it, but I could feel myself kind of everything that had to do with me was kind of like it was almost being packaged away in my head. It wasn't like nothing else was, but I could feel that life kind of being shelved weird. Nobody made it or said anything about it, but you get that feeling of as I'm leaving, I remember kind of looking back and thinking, I hope I can remember it, and then wondering if I can. And it
Mhm.
was that not knowing if I could remember myself. It bugged me because I mean, as soon as I came back, of course I did. I knew exactly who I was, although it did feel completely foreign. I mean, everything about me felt weird. It was cold. I was hurt. I mean, the pain, my tongue was like that thick because they shock you, and every time I would bite down. And so every time they shocked me, I was kink, kink. I mean, my tongue had to be that thick. I couldn't even talk, couldn't let air hit it. It hurt so bad. So, I mean, that was another reason I didn't talk because I couldn't. But I
Sure.
mean, it was too much to handle, and it took me 10 years to really be able to handle it. And it was not good 10 years. I mean, there were bad 10 years. I mean, I've heard people say there's a low afterward, and I mean, I hit some lows. And I think I had to go all the way to the low to come back out. And since then it's gotten better, but I know they've called it the dark night of the soul or whatever. There's a level of depression when you come back. And I didn't know why I was depressed. I wasn't like depressed because, oh, that was so great over there and it sucks over here, and anything like that. It was just an overall depression with no real, I didn't have a place to park it. I didn't have a thought or why am I like this? I
Mhm.
just, yeah, I got really dark. Um, I was married when I had the heart attack, and then I know a lot of people don't, their marriages don't last, and I was no different. But we were kind of headed on the way out anyway. But then during my dark moments, I thought, well, why don't you get married? That'll be smart. It's like I got married. That turned out to be a disaster in a weird way. And I just decided life sucks, and I basically tried to see just how low I can go. I mean, I forced myself into like the biggest depression. It was just awful. And even though I would think, you know, I need to chill out, or it's going to get worse, I think, no, you deserve it. I'm going deeper. And I just forced myself to live probably the hardest. There's probably 2 weeks in there that was just living hell. And I did it to myself on purpose because I thought for some reason I felt like I deserved it. And then
Almost
after
like a
that,
survivor's guilt?
I think so. A little bit of that. and a little bit of what happened to me in the life lesson, and that you find out that the way that you are with people, is so it means such a difference. I mean, just a little how you doing, that color looks good on you can make a day. And then the other little things you can say can also kill a day.
Mhm.
And I think what was happening is I was kind of thinking about, and because I didn't have anything negative when I have my life review. I basically the thing I remember the most was not even about me. But I just remember it was just kind of a self torture. I don't know why. I felt like I deserved it. So I
Mhm.
mean, I would drink or do whatever, and I would just get to where it was just awful. And then for some reason, one day I just kind of decided, screw this. And then I started thinking about it. And then I thought about it 10%, 20%. Pretty soon I was thinking about it 50% of the day, and then 90% of the day. And I started to drive myself crazy because I hadn't shared it with anybody yet. Nobody, my kids, even. I had never told anybody. So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to let this go. I have to tell somebody or I'm going to go nuts. So I thought, when my daughter comes home, I'm just going to tell her. And so she came home, and when I'm telling it, it's weird because when I'm telling her, I'm like, I'm sure you've heard this before. And she goes, you've never told me this. But in my head, I've ran through this so many times that I think people around me are sick of hearing it. But I really don't talk about it. I talk about it here constantly. But then when I go to somebody else and I'm like, I'm sure you're tired of hearing about it, they're like, you never talk about it. So then I
Wow.
started like actually talking about it. And it's amazing how much better you feel,
Yeah, that's
having
great.
talked about it. I
So, I
mean,
want to talk a little bit more about your interesting life review. You had two aspects to this that I think are just so fascinating, Michael.
mhm,
And you probably don't know this, but one of the big reasons that I do NDE interviews is because I became obsessed personally with the life review experiences because I
mm,
feel like they had the biggest ability to impact somebody in a way that would help them understand that what they did to somebody else, they were, in the most literal sense, doing to themselves. And you had
mhm.
two really cool, unique aspects that I don't hear. One of them I've never heard before, but the other one I don't hear very often. I love it that you had it where it was a screen, but then you got sucked into it. I've heard somebody have like a table and they feel like they get sucked into it. And some people feel like they're living it again, experiencing it. Like my friend Jeremiah had an experience
That's kinda how it was.
similar to yours, yeah, where he was there, but you also said it was like almost a third party detached where you're standing next to it, also witnessing it,
Yeah,
but
it was kind of
feeling
like
it.
yeah, it was kinda like being an extra on a Hollywood movie. I mean, I was just standing there watching the scene, but yeah, I could pivot. I could go to me, I could go to them, but I couldn't affect it. I mean, I just know that
Oh,
I couldn't
sure,
affect
because
it.
it's just going to unfold the way it originally
Yeah, I
happened.
didn't even ask if I could, but it was just like
Hmm.
a known thing that you can't. I knew that I couldn't affect it. So I was just kind of watching this go out. And I hope that through mediation or meditation that I can somehow pull more of that out, because the only thing I can really remember is that young kid and being bullied. And I mean, it was impactful, but it wasn't nothing to do with me.
Right, but I what I loved about that is how much it has the ability to spotlight what
Hmm.
one single event, whether it's done with intention or done accidentally, can have as an impact. And I will share, I started to bring up my friend Jeremiah, who had a life
Hmm.
review. He had a similar experience, except he was the bully who beat the other kid up. And he
And you really
too,
did?
yeah,
Did he really do that?
he too became the other kid and
Mm,
felt just the bewilderment of not understanding why he's been picked on and he's being beat up, feeling what the kid was going to have to feel in a shame aspect to have to go and tell the parents. And he also became the parents. But one of the things that happened to him is that he said when this happened, he saw how this kid's life was not going to be able to experience things he came here to experience because he experienced a personality change. He became more introverted. But yours
mm,
was even a little bit more unique because you saw 30 years out how that
Mhm.
kid's life changed. So, can you give us as much detail as you can remember about things that impacted this kid's life after that incident? And is it because we hold on to things that happen to us? You know, like you were giving your example of, I thought about this 10% all the way to 90%. Do
Mhm.
we as humans let single incidents consume us to the point where we can't stop thinking about it and it just changes everything about our experience?
Um, Maybe. I know for me, um, I just had a hard time. I had a hard time with I don't for me coming back was the why me kind of a concept. Even though I wasn't surprised because I would think, I mean, I've always had this strange connection to the other side. I knew I didn't. I mean, I don't want to into religion, but I didn't follow it. I didn't. I know the stories basically, But anytime I would hear, a priest or somebody, or watch TV and they're trying to get you into heaven, and I'm thinking, how do you know? Are they when you get to heaven, it looks like this? And I remember thinking, give me somebody who died. I'll listen to them. But you're telling me what you think happens, you know? So it was just like a disconnect. But I think that's what wears on you is that it's the realism. It just started once I decided to let it in, because I blocked it for 10 years and I really did block it. I tried to put it out. I mean, it was on my mind, but I didn't talk about it. It didn't take up a lot of time. But once I decided that I was gonna unpack it, because it was starting to like wear on me, and I was starting to, I mean, the negativity, the down, all that stuff. I decided I'm going to start unpacking this. And that was the first time. I mean, I waited 10 years before I saw a near death video. And that was the first time I saw an NDE video. I was just on YouTube and somebody said something about near death. And I'm like, oh, this would be cool. I wonder if it's like mine. And the similarities blew me away. I mean, the way they described it, first off, I thought it was weird that I went in space. And I thought, okay, everybody else went to this white, puffy heaven. What am I doing out in the universe? So I just thought that was weird because I was into ghost hunting, but I was never into the afterlife in that respect. And so it was just kind of weird it hits you that way. I kind of got lost in that one,
That's
but
okay. Do you
sorry,
have do
you
you
tell
that's
me to veer
okay.
off.
You have that's it's still super helpful. Like everything you're sharing, it's touching somebody in some way. So I think it's beautiful that you're sharing any way that you're sharing. But for the life review part where you got to experience the 30 years of that kid, can you tell us in what you remember about how it
I don't
impacted
really
him?
remember. I just remember aspects. I remember a job interview. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember it was like I was at an interview. And I remember I didn't see, but I don't, it's like something happened to where I didn't get the job or something. And that was impactful, but that was like toward the end of I'm trying to think of like the gist of that, because that's really the only one I can really come into is that one. But I remember his like after he got married, I kind of got some aspects of that because there was a woman involved, and then you got to see a few scenes, and there was a job interview, but I can't remember what happened. That's one of my homeworks is I'm trying to figure out all these little, I'm trying to put cross the T's and dot the I's to try to make sense of it. The one thing that I do know about the life review, and this is one of those things that I told my kids and everybody that ever wants to be a better person, is you don't live for the life review, but if you know the point of the life review, then it makes you want to live a little different. I mean, if you know the point of when you when you when you go in there, you're seeing the results of your actions. And a lot of times when I'll mention this to people, I'll say, well, you're going to see if you treat somebody bad. Yeah, well, they deserved it. They had it coming. And I'm thinking, no, because when you leave and you're sitting there watching your life review, you are as true and as pure. You're completely out of your human realm. So the reason what you're watching, the reason you don't have that anymore. Like you say, oh yeah, well, yeah, I hurt his feelings, but they did this to me, they did this to me, they did this to me. Well, guess what? When you get there, none of that comes with you. You are the purest of pures, you know, and now you're looking at the reaction of what you did, but you're not remembering what they did to get you there. So a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, but I mean, I never gave it back to them, anybody that, any worse than somebody gave it to me." And I'm thinking, "Yeah, but when you go over there and you cross over, the reason doesn't come with you when you find out what the result was. You're finding out the result and you don't have the reason anymore. Because when you do leave your body, all of that is erased. I mean, if you were mad, erased. If you were sad, erased. I mean, by the time you get to life lesson, you are so erased from what you were that what you're watching, you have no other side of that story anymore.
Like you're the
So,
most neutral version of yourself
and
that you
you're
could
the
be.
and the most crucial. I mean, like I always look at these people, like to me, the worst ones. Think about people that go out there and do like catfishing or steal
Oh.
people's
Mhm.
life savings and hustle them out of this. Can you imagine the life review? I mean, because they're going to go over there and they're going to see everything they did to that person, but not even have anything to do as to why. That's freaky, because when you get only the emotion that you're causing, but you don't get what, like you say, "Oh, sure, I hurt their feelings, but they pissed me off. They did this, they did that." Well,
No
no, they
justification.
not
Right.
anymore. Not when you're there. There's no justification. Plus, you can't even pull back the memory of why. You only know what happened. Like I can't think, "Oh, I remember this. This is that day that No, I'm just watching what happened. I don't have that anymore. I don't have that reason. So when you go in there and you watch all the bad things you've done to people, you're seeing that completely vacant of anything they did to you. And
So
that makes it more harsh than anything. I mean, I think people say, "What is hell?" Doing a life review if you've been an asshole, because that's going to be a problem. I mean, you're going to sit there and go, I mean, you might think, "Oh, yeah, sure, I treated her like shit, but look at how she treated me." Well, when you get to the other side and you do your life review, you get to see how you treated her. That's it. It sucks. I mean, so that's why I've come to where I start doing what I call nightly audits. And I just kind of lay in bed, and I don't do it on purpose, but I lay in bed and I just started doing it like a couple of years ago. I kind of go over what I ate that day, and I'm like, did I pig out? Did I do, did I eat lunch? Did I do not, and then if I've talked to somebody, I'll think about, did I treat them well? Did that end well? Did I owe anybody anything? Is anything, I kind of tally up my day every night. And it's only, if anything else, it keeps me on track. And if I see anything like habits starting to form, or I'm starting to do this too much, I'm starting to do that. If I look at if I kind of, and I'm not examining it for any other point, but just for self-help. It's like, if and it has helped. I mean, sometimes you'll find that if I treat somebody bad, I don't, you try not to, but I'm still human. If you get angry at somebody, whatever, that night when I do my audit, I'm going to drive myself crazy with that. I mean, why did you do that? Why didn't you do it? You should have done it this way, should have done this, whatever. And I'll keep replaying that over and over again. So during the day, when I start to think, "Oh, I'm just going to say I won't," because I'll think, I don't want to deal with that tonight. And in my own head, and I'm my own problem, but I don't want to deal with me going over that, because I'll drive myself nuts with that tonight. And so what I might do, I don't do, only because my audits at night, and it doesn't take time. It's not like I set in a certain spot and do this. It just comes to my head when I lay down, and I just buzz through it. It's like 5 minutes. I buzz through every single aspect that I can remember of that day, what I ate, and then I think about how I treated people. Did they leave better than I came? Did I make anybody mad? Is anybody angry with me? Whatever. And I just do that every night, and
wow,
it's kept me
Michael,
on track.
this is so helpful for people. I've never heard anybody say that they do a self audit. So tell me
It's
how
just
your
I call
life.
it my nightly audit.
I
And I
love
just
it.
I just lay there and I just think, and I mean, another thing that I always hear about manifesting. This is another thing that I'm in that mode where now I'm doing like experiments constantly with the afterlife and everything, because What were we talking about? I totally lost myself. Sorry.
Manifestation and your review of everything that your audit, your nightly audit.
God, I can't remember where I started with
So
that.
here,
Uh,
let me help you. So
uh
you were saying that every night you lay there and you take 5 minutes and you go through everything that you ate and then you go through all of your interactions with other people. And now you're realizing that you can do experiments with manifestation in that
Right.
space as well.
Right. And the manifestation, what's weird, because I had heard manifestation, and to me, manifestation is like wanting. I always thought that's what, I don't know the difference, but I don't know if I can even manifest. But I weighed like 240 or what? No, probably 230 something pounds. And I remember thinking, I had tried diets and it wasn't that big a deal. I wasn't really that uptight about my weight, although I was overweight and I didn't like it. It just, I felt like I had a bowling ball. And so I remember thinking, I was taking a shower and I thought, I wish I could get down to like 100 and anywhere between 160, 170 would be cool. And I just thought that. And then I found that through the next week, next 10 days, next 2 weeks, I just started eating less. And it's not even, I didn't even think about it, never thought about it, never considered it. I would get a whole hamburger, I could eat half. And then I just wouldn't force myself to eat the rest because I used to force myself because I paid for it. It's like, I'm not throwing that shit away. I paid for it. But now I'm just saying, okay, let it go. And I just found myself doing a little less. I didn't consciously do it. I don't even think I changed that many habits. But within probably about 6 months, 165. And I didn't even try. And I've tried diets before in the past, and I couldn't, we did this, you can only eat this many calories, or you got to eat 4 almonds for lunch. I mean, this weird, stupid stuff. And I never got lost a pound. And all of a sudden in the shower, I think it would really be cool to get to be 165 within 6 months, 165, no effort. I have
Wow. Well,
no
tell
idea how I did it. I don't know. I have no idea how I did it. I would love to be able to manifest the lottery, but I mean, I just know that for some reason I asked for a certain way and I target hit it dead on. And
beautiful.
I've had it that way for a year and a half now. The
Congratulations.
most I'll do is be 163 to 167, but I'm always in that range. And it
That's
doesn't matter what
wonderful.
I eat or whatever, I always seem to fall in that range. I don't go hungry. I don't think about food. I haven't changed one habit. I live exactly how I want to.
I want
Just
to
eat
ask
through
you
'em.
specifically because you're also doing this with your interactions with others. You said you noticed that your weight changed when you did this. What did you notice about how your life changed or your relationships changed when you were doing all of this auditing with your interactions with others?
Um, I've always been, I mean, I've never really been a problem for people, or it's not like, oh God, he walks in, it's like, oh shit. I'm usually the one that just gets along with everybody. If there's weirdness or drama, it's not going to be me. So that part didn't change. It's just that I did notice, the one thing I did notice is that my OCD has gone down.
Oh,
Which
that's wonderful.
OCD my entire life has been incredibly annoying because I mean I have a little bit I've always thought I'm like diagnosed. I'm undiagnosed, but I have a little of everything. I mean, I know I have some Tourette's because I have tics, and I've seen Tourette's people, which I never went to a doctor to find out, but I've seen people with Tourette's, and it's identical. I don't scream out or do the vocal thing, thank God, because I know some people do, but I do have the twitches, I have the OCD, I have anxiety, I have pretty much any mental problem that I can think of. I've somehow had or had a little bit of it. So I mean, I do get the mental struggle, and so when I start thinking like mind stuff, I'm used to doing that. So I'm used to kind of putting myself and trying different things that I've been trying to kill OCD for 50, 60 years, and I've never been able to get rid of OCD. But for some reason when I manifested the weight, OCD started to calm down everything. And I don't know if it's because of that or it could be my audits that I audit it, because I do audit it's not like it's not stringent, but like I'll just kind of like buzz through my day and how was I with this, and it's same thing with food too. And there are times that I will go grab something out of the fridge, and I'm like, and I'll put it back because I don't really think I need to count it tonight. It's like, because I want to have ice cream later. Screw it, I won't put that on the ice cream, and that way it won't add up on me. But the nightly audits seem to help. And the thing that it does is it keeps me calm and it keeps my anxiety down because it reminds me every night where I'm at in life. It's like, where am I at and everything. relationships, money, time, goals, everything. You just kind of get a nightly check in
That's
where,
awesome.
where I would leave myself, just going into the dark for months and years and not really check in and find out where I'm at. But yeah, I think doing it every night has definitely made a difference.
That's wonderful. All right, I want to ask you one more question about your
Okay.
NDE,
Hmm.
which is you also had the beautiful place where you said that you could feel the grass had a pulse
Oh
and a
yeah.
light within it. So tell us a little bit more about this magnificently amazing, colorful nature that you got to experience.
Well, the cool thing about, and this is like, this is the best thing that I liked when I started watching OCD stuff. Or not OCD,
NDE, NDE
NDE. There
stuff.
you go. I know it's the letters,
That other
but when I
acronym.
started watching those, the thing that blew me away, and the thing that I always thought that I looked forward to when I first started watching them, is I want to see how they describe it, because I want to see how you describe it. Because, like in my book, I called heaven source because heaven wasn't a good enough word. Source made sense because it shows what it is without trying to describe how it is. The void, what it is without having to describe what it is. But the feelings, the colors, the thing that the thing that was really amazing was the amount of love. It was more. You could never get that much love in this mental head or this heart. You could never fit that much. It's like over an abundance of it. Besides the fact that you're huge. I mean, you expand it. I've described it. You know how like a house would have 220-volt. So you're the house. You're at 220-volt. All of a sudden, you leave the house and you're in the power line. Now you're thousands and millions of volts and you're everywhere. That's how it felt. It felt like I was in this governor of a body, which kind of only allows this much of that and that much of this. And when you leave this, the expansion, the you become air and you become all of the air. It's hard to, I've had a hard time describing it to people, but it is. It's just like that. It's like you leave and you just become you're a part of everything. And that was the thing that I try to tell when I try to describe it. They're like, "Oh, did you see God? Did you see this?" It's like we are God. We're all God. I mean, I was God. I made up God because to me the whole thing was light and energy, and I was in connected. I could be connected. I was also separate. I was still connected. Another thing that I wanted to just run by you, but I have a theory because this is what I've been working on since I'm alone. I have no girlfriend, no nothing because, please, I'm completely incapable. And so nobody would want to be with this because I do stupid shit. I always, the soul connection. Everybody always talks about the soul connection, like from me to you or anybody, whatever. And I've noticed that I have a hard time since the crossover. I didn't notice it as much the first 10 years, but the last 2 years, I have a hard time with eye connection, with maintaining eye connection because like I can look at you now because I'm looking at you through a computer screen. And so I'm not really connecting with you, but if I have this oddity that if I like stare at somebody, I start picking up them. So it's like, and we all do this. We all can do eye to eye. When you look at somebody, there's an eye connection that's given to it. It's not material, but it's there. Like say you're 20 feet across at a bar, and I'm sitting with a guy, and you're across the bar 20 feet away, and you look at him, and I'm looking at you. I can tell you're looking at him, and then you look at me. I can tell you're looking at me. How far from 20 feet away did your eyes move? They didn't. Would not be noticeable. But there's something in us, in our minds or in our eye, something in our soul that knows that connection. I mean, when you see somebody 20 feet away and they look over here, I can tell. If they look over here, I can feel it because I feel that connection. It's like, have you ever felt somebody staring at you? You walk in a room, it's like, God, I can feel that's that's our soul connection. That's the air connection of our soul. I mean, we touch with hands and we touch, we can do other things, but the air connection is the eyeballs. I mean, when I looked in my own eyes when I was dead, there was nothing. But when I look in other people's eyes, and if I had you here in front of me without a camera, and I looked at you for very long, I'd start seeing aspects of your life. And it bothers me some because I don't really want that in people that I just know. So I have a hard time with eye contact. I mean, I'll walk into a place like, hey, and I'm always looking around because if I look too long, I'll start getting weird stuff and I don't want to get it. I mean, sometimes it's cool, but I mean, I don't want to get just random people's garbage, and I do pick
What's
up
the
on
what's
stuff
the
like that.
crazy what's the craziest thing you've picked up looking in somebody's eyes like
Um,
that?
I got one girl I could tell, and I didn't say anything. Well, I did mention it. Um, I could see that and I don't know why this came up, but I could see when I looked in her eyes, I could see that she had several dogs that died. I have no idea where that came from, but it was true. I mean, I kind of mentioned, I could just feel what the way I could see it is like I look in her eyes and you could just feel a pain and feel another pain. And I try not to because when I do, if I do it with a stranger, like if I look at a stranger too long, like during an interview, whatever, and I'm looking right at them, I start to see like like insecurities in them or things that they don't feel good about. Or I mean, it's just random stuff. But it's not. I think if I stayed long enough, I would get more. But I try to back out when I start getting it. But I just start getting a little bit of here's and theirs, and I'm like. I don't wanna know.
But
It's like a
Michael, it seems like a
violation because
superpower to me. I wish I had more time with you today because I would explore this a little bit more. But I would imagine that people who are watching would love to connect with you. And I know that you do
mhm,
emails and that you've got your book. So tell everybody where they can get your book and how they can
okay.
contact you.
The book is anywhere wait, let me grab it. The book is this, which that name came
Beautiful. I
from.
love that cover. That's beautiful. It's
That
almost like my earth behind me.
oh, there you go. Yeah, I like the earth, the curvature of the earth. I wanted that because I remember that when I crossed the
Oh,
curvature.
cool.
And I
That's a
wanted it
beautiful
that's
cover.
it's kind of how it was. The title of the book came to me because I don't read. I mean, the last time I read, I got graded. So I don't read. Um, and so everybody kept saying, write a book, and I don't know how to write a book. And the name came to me as like a commandment. And so that's what I named it. And it's to remind me that I am this world. And I'll get into this with you in another time, but it's the integration part. That's the part that I'm struggling with the most right now.
Okay.
I've seen enough NDEs that I know that what happened to me is real. I'm really trying to integrate. So I have the book, which explains it. And then my website is my name, michaelflorman.com.
Spell it for the
And
people who are
um,
listening.
Michael, Michael, and Florman is F like Frank, LORMAN .com. And you can leave a message there and I'll answer, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of curious what people come up with when they do ask me. I mean, I get anything. I mean, I've only done one other podcast that's been aired. And I mean, I got tons of contacts from that. And
I'm
it's really
not
interesting. I
surprised.
liked it. So yeah, I will
That's
answer
great.
and help me if you can, is all I can say.
Okay.
Integration's my thing.
Well,
So
Michael, I want to thank you. This has
mhm.
been such a beautiful conversation. I feel so honored when somebody is sharing these for the first time. So, thank you so much for your vulnerability and wanting to share this experience with other people. But most of all, thank you so much for what you are doing to wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Yep. Thank you.
And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these experiences with somebody who needs it. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Lori Micah. If you like stories that open your heart and expand your soul, hit subscribe. This channel is Waking Up the Collective.